Warm greetings to everyone. I am Miss Hannah Jessie Francis, Assistant Professor, Department of Nutrition at St. Anne's College for Women, Hyderabad. It gives me immense pleasure to extend a warm welcome to all of you on behalf of the Department of Nutrition, St. Anne's College for Women, Hyderabad. We are highly obliged and deeply grateful to Dr. Anto Cordelia for accepting our invitation to be the speaker for this collaborative international webinar. At the outset, I would like to pay my gratitude to the members who have made this event possible. Our principal, Dr. Sister A. Vijayarani, Dr. Meena Patange, Dean of Administration and HOD of Nutrition, and my PhD guide, Dr. Vasanta Esther Rani ma'am, who has given the details of today's guest speaker. Now, I would like to request Ms. Aisha Rabbani, MSc first year, to carry forward the session. Thank you. Good afternoon, one and all present here. There's the Department of Nutrition from St. Anne's College of Women, and we are organizing an international webinar for the students of nutrition across the India on Chrono Nutrition, Chrono Exercise and Metabolic India. The team of Nutrition Department takes pleasure in inviting the nutrition fraternity to join us the webinar and make it a good success. Without any delay, I would like to start with the proceedings of this webinar. Prayer is a place of admitting our need, of adopting humility and claiming dependence upon God. It is an expansion of total faith and the power present within and around us. Prayer is an exercise of people's and the powers that we call upon him and acknowledge him every time, particularly at the beginning of the year. So I request Ms. Trinity of MSc first year to offer the For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Jeremiah 29:11.
मेरा ब्लैक पेन गिर गया
To digitally enlighten the crowd with our pearls of wisdom. Thank you, everyone. I would now like to invite Ms. Pranati again to speak about our honorable guest, that is Dr. Anto Cordelia. At the University of Malaysia. At the distinguished academic, Ma'am also serves as the head of nutrition in Malaysia. It is the one The research significant the advancement of health in the realms of chemical science, biomedical research, and nutrition. Dr. Cordelia's leadership at the N2RTU underscores their commitment to fostering research excellence and training the next generation of scholars in the fields of nutrigenetics and nutrigenomics. Ma'am is highly accomplished scholar with a robust educational background, holding a bachelor's, master's, and PhD in food science and nutrition from the prestigious Avinash Lingam Institute for Food Science and Higher Education, Coimbatore. With a passion for advancing knowledge in the field, she has focused her research on diverse areas, including nutrigenetic studies, community nutrition, and the integration of artificial intelligence and precision nutrition. Additionally, their work extends to the innovative domain of green species of metallic non-plant particles, exploring pathogens. She has also explored national, international, and national funding, totaling more than 18 lakhs INR, a testament to the significance and impact of the research initiatives. Furthermore, their contributions to the scientific community are evident through the publication of over 40 articles in reputed high impact factor journals and the delivery of national and international levels. Dr. Cordelia's experience underscores the advancing knowledge intersection of food science, nutrition, and emerging technologies. Ma'am is also an esteemed member of various professional bodies, reflecting their active engagement and commitment to the advancement of nutrition and related disciplines. As a life member of the Nutrition Society of Malaysia and the Nutrition Society of India, she is deeply entrenched in the nutrition community, fostering collaboration and knowledge exchange. Additionally, their contributions extend to addressing obesity-related challenges, evident through their associate membership in the Malaysian Association for the Study of Obesity and professional membership in the Malaysian Society for Body Composition. Internationally, she also holds a professional membership with the Nutrition Society in the UK and an early career membership within the European Society for Obesity, demonstrating a global commitment to the field. Notably, their dedication and scholarly achievements have been recognized with prestigious accolades, including the UK Malaysia Institutional Partnership Awards in 2023 and a bronze medal at National Biotechnology Innovation Competition, highlighting the significant impact and contributions to the field of nutritional biotechnology. It's an honor to have you with us, ma'am.
Thank you so much for the very long introduction. And good afternoon to everyone. It's evening here. And my sincere thanks to the management, to the head of the Department of Nutrition and Ms. Hannah for inviting me for this international webinar. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
Okay. So, would you allow me to share my screen now?
Yes, ma'am, you can share. I'll just lock my screen share here. Ma'am, you can share the screen.
Yeah, I'm doing it, please. Yeah, can you see?
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so can I start now? Yeah?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am, you can.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'm Anto Cordelia from the Department of Chemical Science, Faculty of Science, and also belong to the Center for Biomedical and Nutrition Research at Universiti Tunku Abdul Rahman. So I think the background you see on my profile is our University Lakeside campus. And I extend a warm welcome to every one of you if you wanted to come and visit us physically. Right, so let me move on to my topic. So today's topic is, I'm very grateful for giving me this very niche and the frontier research topics in nutritional science. So it is Chrono Nutrition, Chrono Exercise and Metabolic Syndrome. Before I start with what exactly is Chrono Nutrition, let me ask you some questions to see what ideas you have on this topic. Do you know where the master clock in your body is present? Yes? At least do you know that we have a master clock, we have a peripheral clock, we have a molecular clock in our body? Yes, we do have, and this master clock is present in your brain. Okay, it is the exact location of that in the hypothalamus is called as the suprachiasmatic nucleus, SCN. That is a short form that we have. And that is where this master clock of your body is present. And have you heard about social jet lag? I hope you know what is a jet lag. When you are traveling from one time zone to another time zone in a very short time, then we call it as a jet lag because it will take time for you to accommodate yourself to the new time zone. So that is called as jet lag. But what is called as social jet lag? Any ideas? Okay, so social jet lag is nothing but when you have long hours during the weekends, which means you sleep very late at night during the weekends, but yet you have to wake up early for the next working day or the weekday, then that is called as a social jet lag. It is similar to, because normally when we talk about jet lag, it is a sleep disorder, a short-term sleep disorder. So this social jet lag is also categorized under this disorder, which means you do not sleep for 2 days. I mean, you sleep very late during the weekends and then you have to start with your working. So you will have the similar experience of a jet lag. So that is called as a social jet lag. Okay. And how many of us have the 3 p.m. slump? You know what is 3 p.m. slump? I think most of us would have experienced, especially when we are having lectures, we are at work. So this is the time where your body takes rest. So it allows you, we have 2 times your body has aligned to have rest. One is at night, the other one is after 12 hours of deep sleep. So normally it falls within the hours of 1 to 2 p.m. or 2 to 3 p.m. depending on how was your deep sleep the previous time. Okay, so that is called as the 3 p.m. slump, where we slightly doze off during that time, or we call it a nap. That's why the Europeans and the Asians have a habit of taking a regular nap. It's not a sleep, it's a nap, just between half an hour to 1 hour, probably. So this is, again, all these, I'm bringing it to make sure that you understand what is your clock or your circadian rhythm. And have you heard about the chronotypes? We now have different types of categorizing or classification of the individuals based on the different, we know the classification of BMI, how we classify obesity. We have metabotypes based on what is the type of the metabolic profile an individual have. And this is another type, which we call it as the chronotype. So if you know, tell me which is your chronotype. Do you belong to a lion, a bear, a wolf, or a dolphin? So later I will explain what these chronotypes are. So when we talk about chrono nutrition, it is related to the time. So normally when we talk about nutrition, we ask, what food did you have? Okay, how much did you have? So those were the questions we normally ask. But this chrono nutrition relates to the question, when did you have your meal? So when you answer the question, when, then the time dependent feeding, that is what we call it as a chrono nutrition. So if you tune your body to a regular practice of having regular intervals between the meals, or sometimes we go in for a fasting, or we call it as a time restricted feeding. So all those will disrupt your normal clock, your circadian rhythm, which is a 24-hour clock that works. That is what tells you your sleep and wake cycle. Okay, so again, this all goes with the universe, how it rotates along its axis. So that is how we have the day and night, and how you have your meal, and the time of the meal that you have is what we call it as chrono nutrition. So before we know chrono nutrition, you have to know what is a circadian rhythm. So this is a natural and an internal process that helps to regulate your sleep and wake cycle. And this repeats every 24 hours. So the word circadian is from a Latin word, which means a circa is around the meaning, and dia is a day. So what happens around a day? So that is called as a circadian rhythm. So this is very much important nowadays for optimizing various aspects of human health and well-being. And this also helps you to align your daily activities so that you can align it with your internal clock. So you will have a better sleep, you have better moods and other physiological functions. So on the left side of this slide, you have a typical circadian rhythm, how it works. Okay, so from midnight 12 until 12 noon. So it is a clock. So now around 2 o'clock, that is a time when you will have the deepest sleep during the whole night. And around 4:30, you will have the lowest body temperature. By 6:45, you can see a sharp blood pressure rise. That's a steep rise in the blood pressure. And around 7:30 a.m., the secretion of the serotonin, that is a hormone, that stops. And then you have around 8:30, the bowel movement. Your end products of your digestion, all those will be excreted. So around 9, your testosterone secretion will be at the highest. And around 10 o'clock, you will have the maximum or the highest alertness in a day. And for any best coordination, around afternoon 2:30 is the best time. And 3:30 p.m. is the fastest reaction time within a day. And your greatest cardiovascular efficiency can be seen around 5 p.m. And your blood pressure again increases around 6 p.m. Your body temperature is high at 7 p.m. And your melatonin secretion will start around 9 p.m. And then your bowel movements will be suppressed around 10:30 p.m. So this is the regular function of your body. So when we disrupt this cycle and when we keep on feeding our body at the wrong time, that probably disrupts the whole system. And now they have found that that is one of the main contributing factors for the risk for all the cardiometabolic or the metabolic diseases like obesity, your cardiometabolic disease risk of cancer. So there's a difference between your biological clock as well as the So your biological clock, it is an innate timing device. So every one of us will have this biological clock, and these are composed of specific proteins especially, and they are the ones that will guide us setting up this biological clock. Whereas circadian rhythm, this is a 24-hour cycle, which is the one that regulates your sleep and wake pattern, as well as it can govern your digestion, your hormone secretion, your body temperature, etc. So these circadian rhythms are physical, it can be mental, as well as it can bring about any behavioral change. So there is a difference between your biological clock and circadian rhythm. So chrono nutrition, when we talk about, it is the relationship that is between the food intake and your clock, that is your master clock or the peripheral clock that is within your body. So this is one of the newest emerging research topics when it comes to nutrition science, because of assessing your dietary pattern or physical activity or other factors that doesn't give you an exact picture of how this time of your eating can affect your other metabolic functions. So this is one of the hottest research topics when it comes to nutritional science in this era. So more and more researchers are coming up. And when you ask me when exactly this is chrono nutrition concept aroused, it is somewhere around 1920. And the peak of this chrono nutrition is only during the last decade, where we are now trying to analyze how different mechanistic pathways that can drive this chrono nutrition. So this is the one which is governed by the sleep, your breakfast time, your regularity in meal intervals, your clock time, your meal frequency, as well as the time restricted feeding. Okay, now I come back to what is your chronotype. Okay, so this is based on how you set up your circadian rhythm, and that determines what type of eating pattern that you have. So normally we have these 4 animals: lion, bear, wolf, and dolphins. So 15% of the entire population, they are categorized under this lion chronotypes. Which means, and what basis did they do this? Because these lions they tend to wake up early. So all those early risers, those who wake up early, they can be classified under the lion type, and they are very diligent and most productive in the morning. Remember. And a normal typical lion schedule is they wake up at 5 a.m. Their most productive time is between 8 to 12 p.m. And their bedtime is normally early, 9 p.m. So we have only 15% of this population who come under this category. And a majority of the population falls under the bear chronotype, which means 55% are typical of a bear chronotype, which means these bear chronotype people, they are very naturally social. They wake up around the sunrise and they go to sleep around the sunset. So wake up around 7 a.m. Their most productive time is between 10 to 2 p.m. and their bedtime is normally 11 p.m. So I think most of us come to this category, or we belong to this category. And then we have 15% of the people who belong to the wolf chronotypes. So these people are creative thinkers, and they are those who get up very late. So they are most productive only in the afternoon, because already by the time they wake up, it's early, late morning. They are more productive in the afternoons, and they like to go to bed very late. So their typical wolf schedule is they wake up around 9 a.m. Most productive is between 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. and their bedtime is around 12 a.m. And then we have another small population, just 10% of the population, whom we call it as the dolphin chronotypes. So these people are very sensitive sleepers, and they rarely keep a regular sleep schedule. So they tend to change their sleep cycle quite often, and they wake up around 6 a.m. They are most productive only by 3 to 7 p.m. and their bedtime is 11 p.m. Or in short, we call those people whom we classify under this dolphin chronotypes as insomnia, which means they suffer from this insomnia, sleeping disorder. Okay, so now you can see to which category of these chronotype you fall under. And there are various factors how we determine ourselves into which chronotype we belong to. So those factors that determine your chronotype includes your circadian or rhythm regulation, how well it is regulated, which means whether you have a regular pattern or you have an irregular pattern. And then based on the melatonin production. So melatonin, again, it can be secreted only in the absence of light. So you have to know if you are going to keep waking up at the night with the lights on, definitely your melatonin secretion will be affected. And then the light exposure. So at certain time we need, because this melatonin can be secreted only in the dark. So if you are exposed to light, again, that affects your chronotype. And then the age. So different type of age group will have different patterns of sleep and wake cycle, different type of meal pattern when they have their meals. So all those also determine to which chronotype we belong to. And personal and lifestyle preferences, whether you wanted to be active, you are inactive, or you are a social bird, or you are a night owl. So all these again depends on individuals. And then those who suffer from sleep disorders, can be for any medical reason, or those who do not get sleep, who has practiced to sleeping late at night, and or those who wake up early or late in the morning. So when you have any sleep disorders, again, this also will change your chronotype pattern. And social and environmental factors, because let's say in Malaysia, the school begins at around 7. So normally the children will go to school by 6:30 to 6:45, which is still pitch. So again, those kind of things. If you wanted to go to school by 7, then probably you have to wake up very early. And some tend to skip their breakfast. So there are various factors that can affect these conditions. Your social and environmental factors also play a role in determining your chronotype. And then we have the genetics. Of course, there are certain molecular clock genes that are involved with the circadian rhythm. And when there is a mutation in such genes, then probably your circadian rhythm will be affected. And that leads to a different type of a chronotype for you. So all these are the factors that can determine your chronotype. So when we talk about the molecular clock or the circadian genes, so we have various genes, especially the clock gene and its protein, the brain and a BMAL1, which is the brain and the muscle ant-like protein 1. And clock is again a gene called a circadian locomotor output cycles couple. So that is called as clock. So that is a gene which helps in regulating your circadian. And there are various other genes and transcriptomics factors, or the histone modification, or there is chromatin interactions, transcription, regulation of translation, and various factors that influence your molecular clock. So we have this transcriptional and translational feedback loops. You can see here that is from the clock gene and BML1. So how it can regulate the whole molecular system when it comes to the molecular clock. So this is the very core clock mechanism of all animals, plants, fungi, as well as mammals. And this generation of the circadian rhythm is dependent mostly on a concerted effect of this expression of the genes. It can be either upregulation or downregulation of these genes. And in mammals, this is cell autonomous. And it mostly depends on the transcriptional auto-regulatory feedback loops. So the most common or the most important protein and the genes that is involved in this molecular clock is, as I said, it is the clock gene, the BMAL1, PER, which is the period protein, and the cryptochrome protein, which we, in short form, we call it as CRY. So these are called as the circadian rhythm genes. And these are the ones which help in regulation of your circadian rhythm and the expression of the genes, or when there is a mutation in these genes, that can definitely affect your chrono nutrition or your circadian rhythm. So the circadian regulation is very much important, and it differs across the various physiological systems. So you can see the pattern here in sleep. So here, the time of your sleep and the quality of sleep in the humans, and it can cause poor rhythms. So the outer layers here represent those individuals who have familial advanced sleep phase disorder, okay, which is FASPD, and those who have delayed sleep phase disorder. So both also have their own consequences. They will have poor sleep. When you have poor sleep, definitely your cortisol levels will be high. So when your cortisol levels are high, they can go and interfere with various other metabolic pathways and can cause depression, bipolar disorder, or Alzheimer's disease. And then there is metabolism, how it can cross across your physiological system. So corticosterone rhythmic signaling by this peroxisome proliferator genes, especially during adipogenesis, and the metabolic consequences. So when this is disrupted because of your sleep, then probably it can lead to the formation of obesity or type 2 diabetes or even fatty liver disease. And your cardiovascular system, again, the neutrophils, monophytes, all of them, they adhere to this plaque, that is those that is represented here in yellow color. So during transition from the active to the resting period, they can go and have a distinct relationship with this tissues, and they can cause necrosis. So clot destruction can also impact this atherosclerosis formation. So because of that, you may either end up with atherosclerosis or an increased risk for cardiometabolic disease. And aging, and then the circadian gene always undergoes a reprogramming, especially in the stem cells in aging, and that can cause poor rhythms. So your lifespan can be decreased, or you will have other age-related diseases or disorders, and this can serve as an age-related marker. And we know there is a direct connection between our gut and our brain, and our gut is called as the second brain, and we carry around 1.5 kg, similar to the weight of the brain, the same amount of gut microbiomes inside our gut. And these gut microbiota can help in upregulating certain genes, and then that will help in modulating your lipid uptake as well as in body fat. So you tend to have an increased weight gain. And cancer, again, disruption of this circadian rhythm can lead to enhanced cell proliferation, which means the apoptosis will be stopped and there will be more of cell division, and that can lead to tumor genesis. So all these are how, when your circadian rhythm is affected, and how it would lead to the adverse effects. So how does this circadian rhythm work? So normally it requires light sources as well as non-light sources. So the light, when it falls on the retina of the eye, again, there is some kind of a molecular change, or there is a rearrangement in the lens crystallines, like the opsin, the rods and the cones. And then the message is taken to the hypothalamus, to the, as I said, the SEN, the suprachiasmatic nucleus. So that is where the master clock is present. That is the master clock. And that will pass the message to the peripheral layers, which is the different tissues. It can be from the liver, intestine, heart, the lymph nodes, and all that. And we have the other non-light sources, which comes from the food, your exercise, your gut microbiota, and all that. So these are the ones which will help to regulate your blood pressure, your body temperature, or your sleep and wake cycles, or even the hormonal regulations. So we have the master clock and the peripheral clock together, which help, which works in unison, or which is synchronized to produce the effect. So we have the external 24-hour cycle, which is light and dark cycle, and an endogenous circadian rhythm. So this is how your master clock and the peripheral clock work together to maintain the circadian rhythm. So there is a rhythmic synchronization between this master clock and the peripheral clock. And there are different oscillations that is being produced because of. So all these oscillations, either they are tissue specific and they have different rhythmic oscillations. So that is the ones that will help us to express at different times, and it can help to work in a rhythmic way with the brain. So when we talk about chrono nutrition and how it affects or how it influences metabolic syndrome. So we know the frequency of meals. So some have the habit of having small and frequent meals. Some will have the habit of having 3 meals a day. Some tend to skip the breakfast. Some tend to have a time restricted feeding, or some they go in for intermittent fasting. So there are different frequencies by which an individual feed himself or herself. So frequency, your meal timing. Let's say if you take the life of a school child, probably they will have a very similar pattern of meal frequency, which means they may have early morning milk or something. They have a regular breakfast before they go to the school. And in schools, they have a regular time for them to have a break or a snack time, and then a proper lunch time. And then when they come back from the school, they will have a regular again tea time, dinner. So, but when it comes to the adults or working adults or even older adults, this frequency will be altered or it will be changed. And what type of food that we take in each of these frequencies. So it can be the macromolecules or it can be the micronutrients. So anything and everything also have an impact on your health. So when all these are changed or altered, every time you alter your meal time, one day you eat at 6:30, the other day you eat at 9, sometimes you don't eat at all. So you are altering your body system. So when that is restricted, then it could lead to an irregular circadian clock. And that can cause dysbiosis, which means the percentage of the good bacteria to the bad bacteria will be disrupted. So you will have more of bad bacteria and you will have less percentage of good bacteria. So there is a change that causes dysbiosis. So all these can increase the risk for getting all the metabolic disorders. So that makes an individual at high risk for getting these metabolic diseases. So if you do not disrupt and if you have a very similar pattern, then probably you will move towards the healthy aging. So what does research say about this chrono nutrition? So one of the studies that is conducted in, I think, in Singapore. So they found that skipping breakfast increases the odds of overweight, obesity, as well as all the other cardiometabolic disease risk. So they studied this by comparing two groups. One is the experimental group. The other one is the control group. So they gave high energy breakfast with low energy dinner. So that versus another group with low energy breakfast and a high energy dinner. And they found that those individuals who were on high energy dinner, their glucose levels tend to be less regulated, which means their glucose levels will shoot up when you are having a high carbohydrate meal or high energy meal for dinner. So when you alter this, when you have a shift in the timings, let's say you are shifting your meal pattern from 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. to 7 or 6 p.m. Then they found that they have a major influence on the glucose metabolism. It tends to regulate better your glucose. So it is the time of the meals that matter. When you're taking a high energy breakfast, it didn't increase your blood sugar level. Whereas when you have a high energy dinner, definitely there was a shift in the glucose metabolism. So that is one of the research findings that was released or reported. So again, this Singapore Institute for Food and Biotechnological Innovation. So they combined with Nestle to check what is the best time to eat carbohydrates, proteins, fats, and other micronutrients. So again, they had two groups. They researched with one group having low glycemic index basmati rice for both the breakfast and the dinner. And there was another group with high glycemic index glutinous rice, again given for dinner and breakfast. So in the results, they found that regardless of whether it is a high glycemic index or a low glycemic index, the meals that was consumed during the breakfast showed lower glucose response compared to the meals that is consumed during dinner. So again, they prove that it is not what is the glycemic index of the particular food. It is the time of consuming those foods that makes the difference. And another study where the participants were given green tea along with a high carbohydrate meal, both during your breakfast and dinner. And they found a positive effect in glucose modulation when green tea was paired with a meal in the dinner. So they found that these polyphenols or these bioactive compounds that present in the green tea could have helped in aiding or modulating your glucose response. So the same thing goes to when you're taking supplements or other bioactive rich foods, then probably they will have greater health effects when consumed later in the day. But this research is still not conclusive because they haven't repeated the experiments elsewhere. And we still need more research to confirm that this is what is the result. But right now, one of the research papers concludes that having supplements or foods that are rich in bioactive compounds should be consumed later in the day. And if you wanted to consume a high-fat food, it is always advisable to have them early in the day. This is because of you give enough time for it to be digested, absorbed, and it also depends on the bioavailability of fats. So if you plan for a high-fat meal, then it should be early in the day. It can be for the breakfast. And when it comes to proteins, those people consume higher amounts of protein for dinner is associated with greater insulin resistance, which means higher breakfast protein improve the cardiometabolic risk factors, such as higher HDL and lower BP. So those are two the inverse reactions, which means high dinner protein increases the risk of diabetes or the metabolic disease, whereas higher breakfast protein can improve the risk for the same cardiometabolic disease, as well as they can improve your good cholesterol and can help to lower your BP. So if you are a person who is on some kind of a ketone diet or Paleolithic diet, though as a nutritionist, I don't suggest those kind of diets, but still if you're consuming a high protein diet, then most probably you have to make sure you consume it early in the morning or like when during your breakfast and not late at night for dinner. So we have the two scientists, Dr. Jonathan Lipton and Mustafa. So they work in Boston Children's Hospital. They were working on some kind of a sleep disorder pattern. And then suddenly they discovered that this mammalian target of rapamycin, so that is one of a gene, call it as mTOR. So that pathway is involved in regulating the circadian rhythms. So they found a connection between this mTOR pathway and the control of the circadian rhythms. So what they found is when the pathway is triggered by this mTOR pathway, then there is a gene, this S6K1. This is an enzyme that adds to a phosphate group to other molecules, and they try to modify this BMAL1 gene or a protein that is central to this circadian clock. So this modification results in the interaction of this BMAL1 with, again, the cellular machinery that is responsible for making this protein. So this mTOR pathway and BMAL1 is cyclic during the day and night cycle. So thereby it helps in stimulating more protein production at certain time of the day than the other time. So that is what they found, and for which they were awarded a Nobel Prize in the year 2017. Okay, so this is how they found. Okay, look into the diagram. So they discovered these genes that encode for proteins that is involved in regulating this period protein. So PER stands for the period genes. So the protein that codes for the period genes and the cyclic production of these cells. So the oscillations in the level of these PER, which is produced from the period gene, when this goes and binds or form a complex with timeless protein, and in short, we call it a STIM. You can see the two. So this accumulates in the nucleus where it inhibits a period of gene activity. You can see here. So it goes like this. One, the PER protein from the period gene goes and forms a complex with the timeless gene, and that allows it to enter from the cytoplasm into the nucleus and again helps to inhibit it. So the one that helps.
This is a direct question. So which one is a micromineral?
So this helps slowing the accumulation of these genes and help to keep the 24-hour clock on time. So for this finding, both these scientists were awarded a Nobel Prize in the year 2017 in the field of physiology or medicine. And there is another protein or the gene, we call it as cryptochromes. So they are also involved with protein homeostasis. So this addition of this cry with the proteins during the normal circadian rhythm and the proteins of constant abundance. So they help to regulate your circadian timing. Whereas when there is a decrease in this cryptochrome, then that can lead to stress and that can lead to a disordered or dysynchronized circadian timing. So it also depends on these cryptochromes, which plays a major role in maintaining the protein homeostasis. So most of us now go in for intermittent fasting or time-restricted eating. So that is to reduce weight, or you wanted to have a healthy lifestyle. So that is one of the most commonest practices that most of us follow in this age. So if you are having a time-restricted eating pattern, so which means you have more time for fasting and less for eating. So there is a time shift in the postprandial as well as the nutrients, and that would lead to less of storage and more of this mobilization of the lipids, and this can result in decreased body weight, fat mass, blood glucose levels. It can lead to reduced insulin resistance. It can reduce the impaired beta cell function, impaired fatty oxidation, liver fats, inflammation, oxidative stress, and even lower the blood pressure as well as the low sleep quality. So restricted fasting allows you to have a better metabolic effects. So when we move on from the nutrition to the exercise, so similar to when to eat, the same questions can be asked when to exercise. Again, the timing of exercise also is very important in determining your metabolic health. So why we looking for this physical activity? Because normally physical inactivity is commonly linked to obesity or for other lifestyle disorders. And you should know 1 in 4 people worldwide, they do not reach the amount of physical activity that is recommended by the dietary guidelines. So physical activity is recognized as one of the bases for the prevention and management of treating these metabolic diseases like obesity or type 2 diabetes or cardiometabolic disease risk. So this is when you move any one of your muscles, that itself is considered as an exercise or a movement or a physical activity. So we have various organs or the tissues that is being affected if you are not physically active. So physical inactivity can increase your insulin sensitivity, can make your blood glucose go haywire, the readings, you have oxidation capacity and maximal oxygen uptake. And that can also help to reduce the risk for type 2 diabetes, obesity, or various other cardiovascular disease risk. So it is involved, or it involves all the peripheral tissues that underlines your cardiovascular system, like the hormones, the adipokines and cytokines that is present in the adipose tissue, the myokines that is present in the muscles, your short chain fatty acids that is released by the gut microbiota, and the hepatokines that is present in the liver. So all these are affected by exercise. So time of the day dependent physiological responses. So what happens when you exercise during the day and during the evening time, that is in the morning or in the evening? Again, based on the light. Light is one of the major source. So based on the presence of light, it activates or it goes to the hypothalamus, the SCN, which releases the internal factors, which can be the hormones or the neurogenic factors, and it activates all these peripheral clocks. And based on the time as well as which part of the day your insulin secretion or your cholesterol synthesis or your energy expenditure will be determined. So this is how it affects. So what happens, or what are the effects of having or doing exercise, either in the morning or in the evening? So morning exercise is more suitable for those who are suffering from type 1 diabetes, because they have a decreased risk of nocturnal hypoglycemia, which means there is a reduced blood glucose levels at night. So this will help. And it also would lead to increased lipid oxidation, which means breakdown of the lipids and decreased abdominal fat. So all these are the benefits of doing exercises in the morning. And in the evening, it's more appropriate for type 2 diabetes, for healthy individuals, those who are overweight or obese, because this time of exercise, doing exercise can decrease your blood glucose levels and can improve your insulin sensitivity. And this also speeds up your breakdown of lipids, increase the lipid oxidation, especially in case of males. And they try to improve your blood lipid counts. And they also help to increase your muscle mass, and your intestinal environment is also upgraded. So this is the effects of doing exercise in the morning and in the evening. So studies from various sources and various systematic reviews and meta-analysis have shown that daytime activity facilitates circadian rhythms and also helps in promoting overall health and wellness. So they help to increase your circadian robustness as well as the well-being. So when you have more of motor activity, especially during the daytime, they will strengthen your circadian output. Outdoor activity increases your exposure to natural bright light. And again, it helps you to align with your circadian alignment. And diurnal activity will increase the amplitude of these circadian temperature rhythm, as well as helps to maintain your food regimen. So these are the benefits of having or doing or practicing a regular physical activity in the morning. So the major factors that contributes to the health and well-being of doing exercise in the morning are bright ambient light, the temperature, the circadian amplitude increase. So all this brings together the circadian alignment and help to maintain a good circadian diet as well. So again, this was a research, but this was done on mice, not on human beings. So they try to induce morning exercise and morning and evening exercises for early, those who wake up early, or the later chronotypes, the early chronotypes or the late chronotypes. So they found that morning exercise induced phase advanced shift, which means they were greater than the shifts from the evening exercise. And these chronotypes also influence the effect of timed exercise. So for later chronotypes, both morning and evening exercise or induced phase advances, you can see there is a change. So for late chronotype, both morning and evening produce the same effect. There is no change. Whereas when you look into the early chronotype will not be able to benefit from the exercise they do in the evening. So they delay the thing. So they have a phase delay because their body is more tuned to the early morning waking up and going to bed early. So they cannot accommodate to the late evening exercises. So late chronotypes will have severe circadian misalignment, but when they do exercise in both phases, their advance is more. However, evening exercise may exacerbate the circadian misalignment in early chronotypes. So even if you belong to a late or an early chronotype, it's still again the personalized exercise timing that is based on your chronotype. When you try to change them, probably you can see a better result. So what is the difference when there is a time restricted feeding during the different phase? Like you are either active or you are passive, like you're at the sleep phase. So when you are having a standard diet, the timing of entrainment cues, which means it is the interaction between the food and your hypothalamus of the brain, and between the feeding cycle and the central clock. So this is matched for the peripheral clocks. That is what you can see in the standard diet on the left upper region in the chart. Okay, so you will have normal rhythmic functions and normal peripheral clock and all that. But when you consume a high-fat diet, it did not only induce metabolic dysfunction, it also alters the arrhythmic feeding cycle. So there is a dysregulation of feeding cycle, which attenuates the feeding-induced entrainment of the peripheral clocks. So that affects your rhythmic dysfunction. So you can see from the diagram. And time-restricted feeding during the active phase, which means when you are physically alert or active. So that helps to rescue what is the damage that is done by the peripheral clock function when there is a perturbation of feeding cycle. But the same high-fat diet and the time-restricted feeding, but this happened in the sleep phase. So here, the central clock and the peripheral clock, that is mismatched, and this probably will lead to rhythmic dysfunctions, but partial. Okay, so these are the different time-related or time-restricted feeding, how it can have an impact when it comes to when you are active or when you are at sleep. So we have an integrated cardiac metabolic responses when it comes to exercises. So the various factors that can influence exercise will be the biological sex, whether it's a male or a female, the time of the day when they perform the exercise, either it is in the morning or in the evening, or the intensity of the exercise, how intense your exercise is, whether you're doing weightlifting or you're doing motor skills or aerobics. So what is the percentage max that you can do? So all these can play an important role in changing both acute and chronic changes of metabolism, which means your ketone bodies, when there is more fat breakdown, probably it would lead to ketone body synthesis. There are more of branched chain amino acids that is being synthesized. The lactate levels, when we exercise, normally your lactate levels will increase. And then your fatty acids and glucose metabolism will also be affected. So a concerted effect of the time of doing your exercise, the type of exercise, and what gender you belong to, all those also can have an influence on your metabolism. And there are various other factors. One of the main factors, because when it comes to metabolic diseases, it is not about just diet. It's not about just physical activity. It's not about your gut microbiome. It's not about your chrono nutrition. It is also about the genetics. So various factors influence a person's metabolism. So it can be omics. Omics means expression. So it can be nutrigenetics, nutrigenomics, it can be metagenomics, it can be metabolomics, proteomics, transcriptomics, or any omics. And then when you have a eubiosis, or when you have a healthy gut microbiota, and when you have a proper time set for your meals every day, and when you follow it regularly, that is compliance. And then light and dark cycle. So all this can determine whether your metabolism is good. So you will have a good metabolic outcomes. Whereas when you have a risk for the genetic mutations, when you have dysbiosis, when your good bacteria are less compared to the bad bacteria, there is dysbiosis, or when the abundance of the good bacteria is less. And then when you eat too much of fast foods or unhealthy diet, and when you have sleep disturbances, like you sleep very late, you change the sleep and wake cycle quite often. So all these can lead to metabolic disorders and can increase your risk for obesity and other non-communicable disease risk. So the main important thing here is about the melatonin that is secreted at night. So melatonin, the amount of melatonin also goes how much of serotonin your body is able to synthesize. So both these will be synthesized only at dark. So that is why from 9 until 4, I think 4:30. So that is the time for your melatonin to be secreted and in the dark. That is why we switch off the light when we sleep. So this is one of the main reasons. So if you are not doing it, and if you're looking into your phones, okay, until late at night, or if your lights are on, so your melatonin secretion will be affected. So if you do not have enough of melatonin, your cortisol secretion will go high. So cortisol, you know, that can cause various other health, they can really change your whole hormonal system or even obesity. It can make your body unhealthy, or it can give you an unhealthy environment. So that is the effect of light and the dark. So early sunlight, which is natural sunlight, is very good, whereas all these artificial light environment can disrupt your circadian rhythm. And the most important factor that is affected is your melatonin, which is involved in regulating various other factors. So make sure when you are sleeping and you have a proper sleep, you have to switch off your lights. So again, they tested what is the impact of chrono nutrition on elderly people. So they tested this on around 828 older adults who are above the age of 70 and mostly comprised of women. And they gave a particular time of meal. So first intake will be around 8:22, last intake around 7:22, and the eating window, which consists of a difference of 11 plus or minus 2 hours. So earlier intake time increased the grip strength of the elderly people. Later intake time increased your muscle mass, whereas longer eating duration. So people who tend to eat for long hours, so they have increased muscle mass and increased leg power. So this is what they found with the timing of your meal frequency with your muscle strength. So to put it in a nutshell, how you will link all these three. So we need, if you wanted to have good circadian rhythm, and that is the one that can control the whole body system when it comes to your food or physical activity, then probably you need to have this proper sunlight. So that falls in the retina of your eye, that releases, the hypothalamus releases from this SCN. So that helps in regulating the periphery. And again, this is controlled by the molecular clock. So you need to have this circadian rhythm genes, like the clock gene or the BMAL1, as well as the proteins like period protein and the cryptochrome. So all these, when there is a mutation, probably that is going to change or alter your circadian rhythm. And there are other factors other than the light factor that can also contribute. So which can be your pattern of, or your personal lifestyle, or probably what is your working style. Like some they have night shift, some they have day shift, and how many hours of your work, and how many hours you sit and work, and how many hours you move around. So all these again have an impact. Your gut microbiome, the food that you take, whether you are going in for a healthy diet or you have junk foods, and what is the meal frequency. So all these are the external factors or non-light factors that can influence your circadian rhythm. So big breakfast or time restriction, or you're consuming more of supplements like nutraceuticals or probiotics, again can interfere. It can either cause a resynchronization. So if you have a proper circadian rhythm, you will have a proper health. And if that is disrupted, then probably it can lead to metabolic disorders. So this is an intrinsic relationship between chrono nutrition, exercise, and cardiometabolic disease risk. So how do we move on with this chrono nutrition or chrono exercise to the next level? So only now we have studies among the different ethnic groups or even in animal models on various factors that can influence your circadian rhythm. But still the mechanistic roles that is played by these factors are not yet been completely, they have discovered. So there is still a knowledge gap. So we have to know the timing of food intake and exercise also can help to regulate your metabolic interaction. So you need to have research that is done with robust techniques. That is, we need to have more of clinical trials and in large population group, not with just 100 or 200, because those research results will be inconclusive. So you need to speed up or accelerate research in this robust area. And before finding out all the reasons or various factors that can influence, do not come to applying watch the clock diets, especially in the healthy population. So you have to really go through, or you need to have sound scientific evidence in order to practice these kind of diets, because we are still very early to practice this. And now when each country have their own dietary guidelines, now they have to revamp or revisit what they've done before. So it cannot be done, or it cannot be generalized anymore, because each one of us is unique, and one size fits all approach is no more applicable. So that is why we are moving forward towards personalized nutrition or precision nutrition. So if you wanted to do that, then you have to revisit your dietary guideline and make sure that when you do your research or when you do the national level surveys, you have to include this aspect of chrono nutrition. So when the time of feeding, that is more important. Also, you have to create awareness among the individuals, among the public, on the timing of eating, because that plays a major role in modulating your metabolic effort. So all those have to be given awareness to the public as well. So your take-home message will be, always remember your body has its own clock. So ticking away in rhythm with the universe is more important. So go with the flow, listen to its beat, and you'll discover the power of chrono nutrition and chrono exercise to transform your health. And we are more conscious about our calories. So don't just count your calories or steps, count your time. So again, chrono nutrition and chrono exercise, we emphasize the importance of timing. That helps us to make every moment count towards our well-being. And the next one is eat with the sun and move with the moon. So reconnect your body's innate wisdom by guiding towards vitality and balance. And nutrition or well-being is not about dieting or grueling workouts. It's more about a rhythm and routine. So when you have chrono nutrition and chrono exercise, it will help you to nourish and move your bodies in sync with your nature's cadence. And it's not about restriction or regimentation, which means do not have a strict diet or a strict regimen for your physical activity. It is all about alignment and attunement, how you tune your body, how you align it with your master clock and your peripheral clock. So that is more important. And these will invite us to dance with the rhythm of life, nourishing and moving with intentions and awareness. So thank you for your patient listening, and I would like to take any questions from the floor. Ma'am? Hello?
Hello, ma'am. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you so much. The lecture was actually very informative, and we'll make sure that whatever insights we have gained will make it into practice for sure. I would like to request all the participants, if anyone are having any kind of doubts, please leave it in the chat box. We are here to see the questions.
No questions, which means you did not understand, or you are very familiar and you understood well.
Open your doors.
Well, there's a question here in the chat box. Is intermittent fasting beneficial, ma'am? Again, it all depends on your body. So each one is individual. And if you are doing intermittent fasting, then see what is the quality of the food that you have after your fasting and how much is the food. Because people, those who go in for this intermittent fasting, they tend to eat a lot after their fasting, when they break their fast. Okay, so it all depends. Again, I say about the compliance and how well you restrict the diet and the time. So it works based on that. Any more questions?
How to know one's chrono clock? Are there any tests to determine?
What?
How
Are
to,
there any?
how to know one's chrono clock? Are there any tests to determine it? There's one more question.
How to know chrono clock? Or there? No, it is not. How we determine the chrono clock is based on what are the, let's say when you have a disruption in the clock, so your whole body system will be affected. So it can be found only by your monitoring your glucose levels, or your anthropometry, your BMI, or your gut microbiome, or for the levels of metabolites. So these are the things by which one will know what is wrong. Working in night shift, good. You have to do it in the morning. Your exercise will be in the morning. After you come back from your shift, you can exercise. It is not that evening exercise is not helpful. Evening exercise is more helpful for those with type 2 diabetes, even for the healthy individuals. That's what I told you, right? It is helpful. It is not that it is not helping. No. Again, it depends on how you tune your clock. So chrono clock is determined by the amount of light that you receive, how it is being transformed, how the message is conveyed to your peripheral tissues, and what are the impacts. So we just test them based on having a proper diet, giving at a particular time interval, and then see the impact. It can be on the blood glucose levels, or on the lipid profile, or on the metabolome, the metagenomics. So metabolomics. So all those are the things by which we can test. So the only thing is you have to understand your body first, what type of body you have and how well you groom it. Your body will listen to you. So it is up to you how you do it. Circadian rhythm can be improved only by your own practice. It is self-discipline, I would say. So it is you who will have to decide what time you have to wake up, what time you're having your breakfast, what type of breakfast you're having in the morning, and after that, what is your activity and what is your sleep and wake cycle. So when you have a regulatory or when you have a standard regimen for you, and then probably you can practice that. And that compliance, again, as I said, how long you can do it. So that way you can improve your circadian rhythm. So if you're having a habit of eating late at night and all those junk foods at night or high protein food at night, please bring it forward. So after 7, don't have anything. So that will solve most of your problem. So for any night shift workers, I wouldn't say it is night shift workers. For any workers, it can be the normal ones and the others. Do not have a high meal at night and try to have early dinner. So that is what I would suggest. And if you're going to have supper, again, you're going to disturb the whole thing. So have your meal. If at all you want something, then have a banana or a simply easily digestible food at night. For a student, yeah, you can have your dinner by 7 and not anything after that, especially no high carbohydrate, high calorie dense food after 7. and go to bed at 9 or 9:30. No. Chrono nutrition is just based on the individual's cycle, how you plan it. So there is no side effects. It is just we are asking you to have a uniform, regularized pattern of eating and the type of diet that you take. That's it. There's no side effect. There's no such diet. So it is you who will design based on your meal timing. Yes, for anyone, when you have a regular pattern, yes, it is beneficial for any weight category people, as long as you do a proper, you follow a proper eating pattern and exercise pattern. Maybe you all can try for first 1 month or 2 months and see what is the difference. Thank you everyone for those wonderful questions.
Thank you so much, Mark. Now I would like to invite Elba Sharif of MSc First Year to give a word of thanks. Thank you so much, Mark. Let me first give the glory to the Almighty God for making today's occasion a resounding success. I, on behalf of the management, staff, and students of St. Anne's College Women, extend a very hearty vote of thanks to our beloved speaker, Dr. Anto Cordelia ma'am, for gracing their important work and sharing immense knowledge in nutrition and addressing about chrono nutrition, chrono exercise, and metabolic syndrome. That is about the chronology, master clock, and GenTag, and also about the effects of exercises in morning and evening, and about the daytime activity that facilitates circadian rhythms and about overall health and well-being. We were all inspired by our great words now. I would like to extend a deep sense of gratitude to faculty for joining us and making the session more beautiful and lively. I would also love to thank Mrs. Meena Patangi ma'am, Head of Department of Nutrition and Dean Administration, for the encouragement and guidance extended by her at every step. I also thank the Faculty of Nutrition of Department for the relentless efforts and constant support at every step. My heartfelt thanks to my colleagues, the organizing committee, for their valuable contribution, guidance, and encouragement in all our efforts. Last but not the very least, and the most important, a deep and hearty thanks to all my dear students who have attended online and offline from 9 different colleges across the twin cities of Hyderabad and Secunderabad for their enthusiasm, dedication, without whom this event wouldn't have been so successful. And also to the management for the presence and making it more beautiful. I also thank the technical support team and non-teaching staff for their support. Once again, thank you one and all for being with us this afternoon. It's been a great pleasure. Thank you very much. I would now request everyone to stand up for the national anthem.
Hello, Uncle 3:30.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everyone.
Girls, I request everyone to fill up the feedback form that is shared in the WhatsApp group.